Welcome, skeptics and truth seekers, to Schoolhouse Crock, the podcast that fearlessly exposes the real deal behind public education in the state of Colorado. I am your host, Stacey Castile, and on this show, we are not here to sugarcoat. We are here to unveil the truth, challenge the norms, and unpack the crock of you-know-what that often goes unnoticed in the realm of education. Today, I have with me Jalisa Garcia. Jalisa, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jalisa. I am from Greeley, Colorado, born and raised here. I have 3 children, 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Married to my wonderful husband, Jalisa Garcia. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool my children.
How did you become involved in education? What got you involved with us? How did you hear about us?
Once I heard about getting involved in education at school board about a year ago, I just wanted to go to a school board meeting and get more involved. With my son's school at the time, he was attending Franklin Middle School, and he was in 7th grade. We had started to find out a lot of information about what was going on in the schools. I decided it was time to go and be more involved as a parent. As a mom, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what exactly my son was being taught or exposed to. He was changing a lot. And what I mean by changing a lot, his attitude, he was becoming more distant, more closed off. So I figured maybe something was going on at the school at the time. I actually thought he was being bullied, but he wasn't. So that was great. But I just knew it was time to be more involved and find out more.
One of the things that I feel like from my experience with my oldest was that it was never actually said, but kind of the idea that I'm just a mom. I don't know anything. They're the teachers, they're the professionals, they know what they're doing. And so I always just kind of blindly trusted them because I thought, well, they know better than what I do, right? Like they're more experienced. Would you ever say that you felt that type of idea with
Yeah,
with
I
your
did.
kids?
I saw it. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the degrees or the certificates to be teaching, or I don't have any rights. I thought the school and the teachers, they were the ones who were properly trained, went to college, and I wasn't. I was just a mom.
Yeah, completely. Was your daughter in the Greeley Evanston School District as well at the time, or was she homeschooled the whole time?
She's been homeschooled now for about 2 years. So I pulled her out the end of 2nd grade
Okay.
back in 22.
Okay.
I decided to pull her out.
Did you pull them both out at the same time, or was it staggered?
It was staggered. I pulled my son out the beginning, so in August this year.
Okay.
This is his first year being homeschooled.
You had made a comment that the teachers were the ones that were educated and that you were just a mom. And you also stated that you grew up here in Greeley. Can you give me a little background on your education experience?
Yeah, so I actually went to Madison Elementary, and then I also went to Franklin Middle School, and then I went to Greeley Central High School for 2 years, and then I ended up having to go to an alternative school to get my high school diploma. So yeah, I ended up going to an alternative school that was called Colorado High School. It's no longer a school anymore. I was just really behind and wasn't being successful. I was making a lot of bad choices. So I had to go to an alternative school.
Did you feel like that alternative school was better at addressing your needs? Did it make your high school experience easier for you?
I believe so. Yes, classes were really small. So the teachers knew us. They knew exactly what we needed. If we were struggling, they knew who we were. They didn't, they didn't see us in the back of the classroom or the front. They paid attention to us. They checked on us every day. If we were struggling, I knew I had a relationship with my teachers to ask for help, and I got the help that I needed.
I definitely can understand that. The school district that I went to, a big class was 20 kids in one classroom. It was an extremely small school. My graduating class had 60 kids. And
Mm.
again, that was considered a large graduating class for us. But the teachers knew you, they knew how you learned best, they knew how to tell if something was, wrong, were you not getting something? Was something wrong in your personal life that was maybe affecting your school work, had that one-on-one relationship.
Yeah.
Definitely capable to make students feel like they also have someone that they can rely on, that they can trust, that they have some type of a bond with to
Oh yeah.
rely on them.
Yeah.
I just think that it's great to be able to highlight some of these other opportunities for kids. I think that something that we need to, as parents, adults, just in general, to understand and appreciate is not all kids learn the same. Some kids can thrive in a bigger class, whereas others thrive more in a smaller class. And so I think sometimes there is a perceived stigma against some of these other options. But really, if that's how your child learns the best, then let's celebrate that. Let's be proud of that as opposed to being embarrassed or think, oh man, it's an alternative school. That kind of ideology about it. I think that we need to celebrate these. And this is why I'm wanting to interview a variety of people who've had all kinds of different experience themselves in school or their children. Because I want everybody to be informed and educated. What are all of our options? What is out there? Because it just doesn't make sense to me why we wouldn't put our child in a place where they are going to be the most successful and achieve the most.
Yeah. I agree.
So, at the alternative school, did you feel like you were able to get the help that you needed in any specific areas?
I believe that I did get the help I needed. I I struggled a lot in my and I knew the teacher very well, and she worked with me pretty closely. I wasn't going to be able to graduate without my credit, and she knew how much I was. She's seen how much I was struggling and knew I needed the credit to graduate. So she would take the time with me after school every day and sit with me and talk with me, and she would explain everything very thorough, so that I understood the basics. And I thought that was very special. And then even when I was starting to apply to Ames to go to college there, again, we had teachers come in and help us high school or senior graduate sit down, help us fill out everything we needed to be able to put the information forward to go to Ames. So I thought that was very helpful.
Something that I really like about this story is that because of somebody's time and dedication to you as a student, you were able to be successful. They didn't just push you through. They didn't just allow you to slide by. They truly took the time to work with you, to help you. They saw that potential in you. They wanted you to have the best. And sometimes I don't know if that's always necessarily the case. It's always nice to hear when, a school, a teacher takes that time to sit down with a student and work on those areas that they struggle.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I sit here and look at the education now, and they just pass kids on, keep just sending them right through. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to write. They don't know how to tell time.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in high school, those teachers made sure we understood the work. You couldn't just pass right along. No, you had to understand everything you were learning.
Yeah, completely. You talked a little bit about your son's experience in the district and your daughter's experience in the district. How come you ended up pulling your daughter out?
She was getting bullied. She was getting bullied. I would say even in first grade, I started noticing second grade was the worst. And I took all the proper steps I needed Teachers weren't doing anything. The principal wasn't doing anything. The assistant principal apparently was telling the principal, and then it was just a huge mess. The teacher, I thought she was communicating everything with the principal and assistant. Turns out they had no idea. So I started to get involved. I had to quit my job to be at my daughter's.
I totally understand that and see how that could happen because, I mean, it's crazy. It's like almost a full-time job to make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to be going or your child is getting what they deserve. Well, how did the school respond?
So I remember the principal telling me, well, just take it with a grain of salt. It'll make her have a better backbone. She'll know how to handle these things because she'll know how to be able to, bullies are always going to be around, even as adults. So she'll understand how to deal with bullies. And I said, no.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Bullies are going to be around everywhere. But as a child, if you are not seeing a student be reprimanded for bullying you, one, there's the risk that you will think that that's acceptable, right? Like you can get away with it. Or you might start taking matters into your own hand in a negative way. And that's also not how, you want them to learn how to deal with bullies. Like you said, going the proper steps, the proper route. What is that teaching our kids when there's no resolution?
Exactly.
There's no true outcome at all. And it's awful. I mean, I've even had to say this to my kids. Just don't go around them. Don't be around them. Just avoid them. I also think that we need to be involving the parents more. So there's like this whole like secretive aspect of it. Like you can't know the student that they're getting in trouble with or that they're fighting with, and you can't know who their parents are. But I mean, gosh, could you imagine the differences? Even if like you think about it, like with our kids, if there was a conflict between them, like they were playing or whatever, and there was a conflict, wouldn't you and I want to sit down and be like, okay, like let's figure out what happened? How can we sit down and explain it? But then also call it out because, and this is something that I feel really passionate about. I'm not exactly sure why, but when we don't teach our kids the proper way to handle this stuff, if they don't know how to stand up for themselves, if they don't know how to advocate for this themselves, that's obviously not healthy and what we want for our kids.
I agree. It was really hard. I had to put my daughter in therapy. No child should have to go to therapy because they're getting picked and
Yeah.
bullied. And adults are not standing up. They're not protecting our children.
No.
The teachers, the principal.
I don't want my kid to get bullied, but my kid's also not going to bully. And sometimes I don't feel like parents have that mentality. Like they just think that their little angel is the perfect little angel that would never do anything wrong instead of holding them accountable. And God gave us these children to steward them, to be like him in his image. And if we aren't holding them accountable for their actions and showing them like, no, that's not acceptable, this is how we do it, then we're not preparing them for life. My son has recently been getting into Foursquare during recess at school. And there's been some conflict. And one of his friends got called out when he didn't think that his friend was out, and his friend was really upset. And he was trying to get the kid that was kind of in charge to listen. And he tried to turn him around by his shoulders. Well, the kid had moved and he accidentally hit him in the throat with his hand. And then he got in trouble because a para saw. We had to have that conversation like, yes, it is hard when your friend is sad and it wasn't fair. But also in this situation, instead of trying to get someone to listen to you because you can't physically make somebody listen to you, what you could do instead is walk away with your friend and be there with them and be like, you know what? Let's go find something else to do. Forget this game. They're not playing right, whatever. And teaching them that way, because then that's a skill that he can use. So now that you are homeschooling both of your school age children, how is that going? Have you noticed a difference in them?
Yeah, I have. I actually have seen my daughter, she's grown a lot. Her confidence is just exceeding so well. Actually, when I pulled her out of public school, she didn't know how to read. She struggled a lot with her letters. She didn't know hardly any. She's grown. She's grown so much, and if I would have known to pull her out sooner, but I trusted she was in good hands. She was, but now she's come such a long way. She's exceeding in her academics, and it's been great.
Awesome. Do you think that you will homeschool your youngest child?
Yeah, yeah. We already decided he's staying home. We are not sending him. No, he's staying home. He's already looking forward to it. He's gonna be 4 in July, so I've already started teaching him, how to do his name, his letters, his counting, his colors. He's picking up a lot from hearing his older siblings. He's always says, "Well, when I get bigger, I can do this." When I get bigger, I said, "Yeah, we will get there in time, but just not right now."
Slow down a little. You're still a kid.
Yeah,
And then your son, have you, since homeschooling him, have you noticed a difference in his behavior?
I have. He struggled a lot when I told him last November, this would be the last year that he'd be in public school, and he did not like it. He didn't accept it. He couldn't figure out why. He thought I was, trying to torture him, and I was just not on his side. But once I had him home, I also realized he's very smart, and the teachers have always told me, "Oh, he's above grade level." And once I had him home, I thought, I don't think he is above grade level. In math, yes, he's in geometry for an eighth grader.
Yeah.
But the reading and writing, he struggled a lot. He was kind of behind.
I think that oftentimes we see this in the district all the time. Everything's great, everything's fine, nothing to worry about. But really, that's not
That's
not
not
always
the
the
case.
case. Well, something else that I kind of wanted to talk with you about today is here in Greeley, a huge part of our population is of Hispanic descent, and you yourself are Hispanic. In the school, you see a lot of teachers, the districts, the students who are so hyper focused on their race or ethnicity. And with having such a high Hispanic population, would you agree that it's almost like it's so focused on by the district and the schools here?
I think it is. When I was in school, I never paid attention to race or, oh, that person looks like me. And now it seems as if they're really making a big deal out of it.
Yeah, in Greeley Evans District 6, on their Initiative 2030 plan, they want to increase their number of people of color hires. First of all, I've said this 1,000 times, but I can't not say it. If you have to specifically call out that you're going to intentionally hire them, does that mean that you were intentionally not hiring them at one point? So much so that you have to call it out? But what are your thoughts on that? On hiring specifically people of color for to quote unquote make students feel more accepted in the schools?
I don't agree with it. I think it's a horrible idea. We need teachers who are going to love our children no matter whatever race they are. And it just shouldn't have to go people of color. I know they've used that term before. And to me, they always point out that the Hispanics, people of color, are low income. We have a lower success rate of graduating. So then why would you want to hire teachers of color if that's the case?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, are we really doing justice for our children? Are we really caring about their best interest if we're not hiring the most qualified, but someone that they would identify as? Something that we talked about a little while ago was your math teacher. Can I ask what race was she?
It was white.
So I think this just goes to show like you didn't do better because you had a Hispanic
Mhm.
teacher. It was because you had a teacher that cared about you and cared about your success and didn't care about your skin color and you didn't care about her skin color. Like, that is what we should be doing for these students and not trying to get them to think that, oh, I can't learn as well because I have a white teacher. I mean, that would be just as bad as a white student saying, well, I can't learn well because I have a Hispanic teacher. That's not acceptable. That's not okay. I mean, we need to be hiring and providing the most qualified, the best teachers for our students and not just trying to hit some type of quota of hiring.
I think, and to me, it sounds completely racist. We're teaching our children, oh, you can't have the best degree or education if you don't have the same teacher that looks like you and talks like you. That's not how that's not what we should be teaching our children at all.
No. I mean, that just makes me think of too, they have equitable grading. So basically, you're not capable of getting a good enough grade yourself because of your skin color. So we're going to make it easier for you. Well, isn't that just the white people saying that because of your skin color, you aren't smart? I mean, what are we teaching our kids? And aren't we just creating an environment for victimhood? For kids to say, well, I can't be this good or I can't find a good job or I can't go to college because I'm not white and I'm not capable of it. Or you should do this for me or you should give me this handout because I'm a person of color and therefore that's what is expected.
Mhm.
It's mind-blowing how many people go along with this. I think you're absolutely correct that it is racist, 100%. And I often wonder, like, how does that work for kids who are mixed race? I feel like my daughter looks like maybe you should be her mom instead of me. So where does that put her? How is she supposed to relate to that? In the panorama surveys that are conducted by the school district, there is one where they talk to the students. Do you feel like the media, the pictures, the stuff used around your school represent your ethnicity? And it's like, why does that even matter? Unless you're intentionally like, ooh, don't put that picture up because the kid is this race or that race. Like that's ridiculous. And we're causing more division between our children. I think adolescence is a rough time for kids. There's bullies. You're trying to figure out your identity in terms of like what you like, who's your friends, what do you want to be when you grow up, and you're working through all this stuff. But like, let's throw one race. That doesn't make much sense to me to just add another obstacle to our kids to be worried about. I find it interesting because to some extent there's racism and that's not appropriate. But also I think that we take it too far as well. I mean, we've talked about racism within your own ethnicity and some of those different things in the Black community. There's like the whole like, oh man, that's light skin energy, like things like that. Like, I think what we really need to be doing is just teaching our kids how to love yourself no matter what color your skin is, no matter what hair type you have, no matter what color of eyes you have. Like, that's ultimately what God wants us to do, is love ourselves to that extent because he made us the way he wanted us to be and he doesn't make mistakes. It's interesting how and maybe you can agree or disagree with this, but it's almost like it's like the white people that are having to be careful, but not any other of the races. As though it's almost like, only white people can be racist. Do you believe that only white people can be racist?
I mean, I see what you're saying, but no, I don't think white people can be racist. That's just ridiculous.
it's can happen to anybody. It can be anywhere. It doesn't exactly
You're
matter.
not white. No, I mean, and like you said, in my culture, in my Hispanic culture, I've noticed it. I've witnessed. I had confrontations with other Hispanics, and they tell me, "Oh, you're in the wrong community." And I sat there and I said, "What do you mean? We look just like each other. We are both Hispanic, so what does that even mean?" It's very, I mean, it's very divided.
I had the opportunity to speak with Yasmin Navarro, who was running for State Board of Education for CD8 against Rhonda Solis, and she's Hispanic. And she was talking about how, like, she gets called a coconut because she's brown on the outside, but she acts white on
Mhm.
the inside. And I know Ryan Gonzalez has had that as well. So, because your views aren't lining up with theirs, then they start to bring up race. That's ridiculous. I don't have another word for it. I think it's really sad. You and your husband helped a lot during the school board elections, reaching out to the community. Can you give me some insight? Did you find that people in the community align with or agree with what's going on inside the school districts now with the LGBT, with the passing students along, even if they're not understanding the material, teaching kids about, or I mean, just over sexualizing our children? What did you find in the community?
I come to find out that they do not agree with. We had met with a lot of Hispanic families, mostly men. So the fathers, we have conversations with my husband and I, and they don't support any of what is going on. And they have told us they don't know who to talk to. They've tried reaching out to the school. They've tried reaching out to teachers, principals, assistant principals, and they never get an answer. So I pointed to a picture of Brenda, and Brenda Campos Bitsy. I pointed to a picture of her and said, "Well, has this lady reached out to you? Do you know who she is? She is for the Hispanic community and she's representing us. So do you know who she is?" And they said, "No, we don't know who she is. Absolutely not." And these people, we would be standing out there for hours talking to one person, and it was very heartbreaking hearing their story.
Why do you think that they don't know who to talk to? Or why do you think that they are not standing up and speaking and calling this stuff out?
I asked that. I said, call the school. There are other people you can call. Go to the school board meeting. A lot of them don't have the time because, of course, they have to work long hours and they don't even know when the school board meetings are. So I had mentioned that to them, and then I said that they can even watch online. I even told them, me and my husband even contact us, and we will be the voice for you.
Yeah.
But they don't have, again, language barrier. Yeah, there are tons of teachers who do know Spanish, but are they contacting the family? What are they saying that these parents feel so lost
Yeah.
and they're so confused? So I was curious to know what is going on. And they don't agree. A lot of the kids, it was like bullying or the whole transgender. A lot of Hispanics are Catholic. They don't believe in that. We had tons of dads tell us, no, we don't support that. And why are they pushing that in the schools? And we wouldn't bring it up. They would bring it.
Do you think that they see like Brenda Campos Spitzy's name and think, oh, she's a doctor and she's Hispanic and she's going to do what's best for our community?
I believe so. Yes.
And do you think she's doing what's best for your community?
No, she's brainwashing our community. That's what I think that's what she's doing. She's brainwashing our community. Not being honest. If she was out there, during the campaign, like we were having these conversations and actually going down the list what she supports and what she does, I'm pretty sure more than, 90% of the families would have not supported her. But I honestly believe that as us as Hispanics, we were taught, we were raised pretty much like, oh, we're going to be on the lower income. We're going to be poor. So she works, Sunrise Clinic, both her and her husband.
Yeah.
That's on the lower income side, of town.
Yep.
So if she wants to help our community, she should say, you know what? Let's find a way to get you the assistance, to get you on your feet so you can get off, these assistant programs for whatever the case may be. And
Well, how to achieve more than what, maybe somebody thinks that they're capable of achieving or all that they're capable of achieving. How do you think we can get the Hispanic community to step up more and to become more involved with the school district?
I'm not sure. I've been trying to figure that out. I'm trying to find ways if we can even meeting, at parks or uh, anywhere. But I'm not sure. I don't know if they actually want to get in or if maybe if they're afraid. I've also heard, we're afraid because we don't want any backlash. If we speak out, then this what if, something bad happens to our kids or our kids get penalized or even them.
Where's that idea coming from? Do you feel like somebody's telling them, hey, don't ever speak up, don't ever question this because of these ramifications? Or do you like, where does that worry come from?
I would ask parents, well, why do you feel this way? What's making you? Who's telling you? And they would say, well, we've tried to speak out about things before, but they just tell us, our kids are lying or we're looking into it too much. And so they give up. They don't have anywhere to go or anyone to talk to.
So, when you sign your kid up for public school, you get a little handbook and it's your parents' rights handbook. But nobody really reads it because, one, it's usually like legal jargon and that doesn't make any sense and is always confusing as all get out. But then if English is your second language or it's not very strong language for you at all, and maybe you don't have much of an education, even with a master's degree, sometimes I have a hard time understanding some of the legal jargon and how it's written when I read the bills that they're pushing down at the legislative level. I'm like, okay, I got to read this 4 times and out loud and slowly and like ask somebody else, like, can you explain this to me? Like, how does this make sense? I think we need to have a night where we have people come and they learn about their parental rights. And then it's also available to them and, a translator to be there to help translate it to them. But the problem is that the school district doesn't want people to actually be educated on their rights. Just because they don't know or they don't understand doesn't mean that their kids should not get the help that they need. They should not be prevented from advocating for their children, protecting their children against curriculum. Some of the stuff that we see going on, we talked about majority of the Hispanics are Catholics, and with the comprehensive sex ed, I mean, we're not just teaching kids the birds and the bees, we're adding in all of these other things and alternatives, and it completely goes against their beliefs and their cultures, their convictions. They say that they're going to hire people of color to make students feel like more included, but really the best way that they could make them feel more included is to take into consideration these families' core values and beliefs.
Yeah, I agree. I've done a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, my husband and I, to figure out how we can help. We haven't been able to come to a conclusion and what we can do, but I honestly have thought about going to the schools. Why can't I go to school, any school, as, as kids are getting out, have conversations with parents, even if it's a couple parents, going to start opening their eyes.
Yeah,
Going to start educating.
completely, completely. I think that it's also great to see like your husband. I mean, obviously, I think it's great to see you be involved in everything, but I think that it sends a really good message too to see a strong male. I think that we need that so badly for our kids. We need the men to come out. We need the men to stand up and speak up because, like, especially if you look at like the Hispanic community, right? Like, they still have those values that, the head of the house, the man. And I think that I agree with those values 100%. And so I think that when they start to see, the men coming out and being involved, I think that this is just across the board. We don't see a lot of dads around, right? Like, unfortunately, in this day and age, we have created a culture that allows for dads to be absent, and not absent because they're busy working and putting food on the table, but, multiple baby mamas, jumping from one house to the next, some of those things not involved in their children's education. And so I think when we see strong men, I think that helps a lot. And I think it sends a really good message. And I just really hope that the work that you and Javi are doing will continue to encourage other people in the community to also stand up and speak up and to get more involved.
I really hope so. I know with our last go around, my husband has spoken at the school board meeting, and then he also tried again at the forum
Mm-hmm.
back in
October.
October, and well, we got removed from both of those situations, so it's very discouraging.
Yeah. Will you go into that a little bit more? Let's start with the school board meeting. What did he do to get removed from the boardroom?
So when he went up and did his presentation, his speech, he was just calling out Brenda about how she says she represents us in our Hispanic community, in our culture. And he was telling her, it's not true. If you really were out there talking to people like we were, you would know that everything that's coming out of your mouth, everything that you say is just a bunch of lies.
Yeah.
So once he was done with that, we went and sat down, and then a gentleman came up, but he had asked if my husband be willing to go talk with him out in the hall. And Javi looked at me. He said, "Should I go?" And I said, "Yeah." So he went, and then I shortly followed. Well, when we were out there in the hallway, he was just trying to gather information on where we were getting our information from.
You mean like the fact that Brenda doesn't actually represent the community? Did he think that you guys were not putting in the legwork to talk to the community and thought somebody else was telling you this?
I believe so. I think he was wanting me. He wanted to know what place, where had we, been going, if we were going to businesses, what area of town were we going? And I told him, I said, that's why, so you can go run back and tell Brenda, no, we've kept this information between us and the community, and it's really none of your business.
His name is Brian Limos, and he's the director of instruction and ELD. What came of that? Did anybody else reach out to you guys? Was that pretty much it?
That was it. He said that he would reach out to my husband because he wanted to come together as a community. Us Hispanics belong together and we need to work together. So my husband said, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to talking to you more so we can get people out here representing these families. And he never did.
Yeah. Never heard back, even though he was the one that had said that he wanted to work with you guys. You guys didn't say, "Hey, can we have a meeting and talk about this?" He was the one. I was there at that meeting, and honestly, I felt like he was the one that was sent to speak with you guys because he is Hispanic and you guys are Hispanic. And I think that's ridiculous because it's like they're trying to manipulate you. They're trying to make you think, oh, good, a Hispanic person. But it just goes on and shows how empty their desire is, how much they do not actually want to work with you. Because if you still haven't heard from them, and it's not like anything that your husband had said during his public comment, it wasn't disrespectful, it wasn't rude, it was truthful. And it it's sad that they just feel like they can manipulate you guys that way in hopes that you'll sit down and shut up and not bring it up again because you Hispanics are going to stick together and work together. At the campaign forum that you guys went to, if I remember correctly, Javi had asked a question of Brenda to explain why she did not answer the questions on the voter guide, specifically about, supporting some of the LGBT transgender ideologies that were seeing pushed through the schools. And how did she answer that?
She said there was really no right or wrong answer. It was not a yes or no answer. She beat around the bush. She didn't even give, and it is a yes or no answer. It wasn't a hard question. Those aren't hard questions. Everyone else gave an answer, so why couldn't her? And then Azari, they got very defensive.
Yep.
My husband was shut down immediately. He wanted to follow up with another question on that voter guide. And actually, Rhonda Solis started screaming at us for us to be removed.
Yep. Which is funny because it's like, we're going to hire people of colors that our students feel represented, but we're going to kick out the same people, the same ethnicity as us, the same race as us, because we don't like what they're saying. So that just makes you think when it would come to hiring, they're only going to hire the people that looks like them, that says what they want them to say. That's going to be easily controlled, easy puppet for them. Have you guys had any type of interaction since with Brenda or Rhonda in any capacity? Have they reached out to you to try to have an understanding of where you guys are coming from?
No, they have not. My husband and I actually thought about reaching out to Brenda and Rhonda, but then we just have so many different beliefs, and I don't think the conversation would go or end well. So me and my husband took a step back, and we haven't been involved as much as we'd like. But we will make another appearance at another school board meeting, and we're not going anywhere. We're gonna bring more people to the table with us, and we're gonna be, we're stronger in numbers.
Yes, yes. And then I think that's gonna really make them panic when they start to see the numbers increasing. I think part of the reason that there's not these informative meetings for the Hispanic community or Spanish speaking community is because they don't want them to be educated. They don't want them to know because they don't want them to stand up and speak up. They like the authority that they have. They have the upper hand and they like that. And so I think that if they start to see more Hispanic people showing up with you guys and being willing to get up there and speak, I think that is very important. And I think that it's definitely going to make them panic.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jalisa. I really appreciate it. I feel like this was a great conversation and definitely gives parents more education on what other options are out there for them and then also what is going on in the school. I hope you will join us again.
Absolutely, Stacy. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation, and I hope to come back.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Please be sure to like, follow, and share our episode. You can find us on Twitter at Schoolhouse Croc, on YouTube at Schoolhouse Croc, and you can email us at stacy4d6@gmail.com. Goodbye.